Of course, take you to East London, where SABC News reporter Lubabalo Dada is currently standing by. So, Lubabalo, the numbers are trickling in at this stage. Give us the latest from your side.
Well, very good morning to you and the viewers at home. What we can tell you is that the Eastern Cape was the first to capture results nationally. Those results were coming from the Winnie Madikizela Mandela local municipality here in the Eastern Cape. But the election day has not been without challenges. We have learned that more than 30 voting stations did not open on time due to service delivery protests that were taking place. But with me, I have the provincial manager from the IEC in the Mr. Siyabonga Maki, to tell us about what has transpired throughout the day. Mr. Maki, as I have alluded that there were stations that did not open on time. Kindly tell us, how did that affect the election day?
Good morning to you, Lubabalo, and the viewers at home. Yes, indeed, we ran into some challenges in the morning yesterday, with some voting stations not being able to open on time because we were confronted with service delivery protests. But we overcame that with the intervention of SABC in the main, and the GCIS who were calling the political leaders, across in fact, in all those municipalities that were affected, for them to intervene. To intervene not by providing what is being demanded by the community, but by intervening through talking to the people, telling them that these things are being looked into, and pleading with the communities to go and vote. At some point, we had, for the longest time during the day, we had 4 voting stations that had not opened. And again, SABC came through for us by providing a helicopter to ferry staff from across where there were trenches, because that was our biggest problem. We had trenches that had been dug overnight, so we could not cross through. So we had to ferry the staff from the other side of the village to the voting stations. So eventually, around 3, all voting stations in the province were opened and were operational.
We did see some long queues of people coming in to vote, some later on the day. So tell us, in terms of the closing time, did you close on time, or did you have to extend as a result of people coming in very late?
Lubabalo, the legislated time for the operational times during an election is 7 a.m. and up to 9 a.m. That time could not and was not going to be extended. But having said that, we are in the habit of not excluding voters who would have been within the boundaries of a voting station at 9. So those we mark them to say that this is the last one who was there on the queue at 9. But we don't close a voting station until we have serviced everybody who would have been there by the time a closure came. Yes, indeed, we have some voting stations that could not close on time due to what I've just said. We had 2 in, I think, in Makana, 2 in Matatiel, 4 in Makana, the Grahamstown, and about 53 in the Musa area, in Flagstaff in particular. Those voting stations closed late because of what I've said. They were confronted with long queues just before closing time. And then but all the voting stations now are closed, and we are capturing results in various local offices.
We heard that in the Nelson Mandela Bay there was a shooting incident that occurred which forced the IEC to change the venue for counting.
That is true. That is true. We have always been worried about Nelson Mandela because Nelson Mandela, things that are happening there are sporadic. They are not related to the elections, unlike the service protest actions that we see on the other side of the province. In Nelson Mandela, that area is just busy, with violence, if I may put it like that. So there were shootings that took place in the late afternoon, and we were worried about our staff. And so we decided to negotiate with the with the party agents in voting stations to request them to allow us to leave voting stations after closing and do counting elsewhere, where it would be much safer. Because remember, it would have been dark at the time, and we did not know how that type of violence would escalate and actually affect our operations. But we cannot just do that. We cannot do that just like that. We had to get permission from the CEO and by extension from the commission, who eventually allowed us to do that after scrutinizing our request and looking into the logistics. And we were in consultations with the political parties who have to have a buy-in on this, so that they do not suspect that we are trying to be, to be funny, so to speak, to say that no, now they want to take the ballot papers with them. We do not know where they are going to be taking those. In fact, as such, they are allowed to increase the number of party agents. So remember, at a voting station, each party is allowed to have 2 party agents. But when you do things like that, then they are allowed to increase the number of party agents to 4, so that they can follow us to those places, to the place that we needed to go into counting.
All right, sir. Any glitches, maybe?
No, apart from what I just said about the service delivery protest that affected the early opening of the voting stations, we had nothing of the sort. The province was quiet. If it were not for the taxi violence that took place on this first day of the special vote, we would have had a very quiet election. But that hampered us a bit on Monday, to a lesser extent on Tuesday. But yesterday, being the actual voting day, we were cruising, so to speak, save for those few sporadic areas of unrest.
And then in terms of voter behavior, did you have any voters that misbehaved?
No, voters behaved well. Around closing time, around between 8 and 9, I was going around a few voting stations in town. Queues were long, but voters were well behaved.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. That was Siyabonga Make, who was the provincial manager for the IEC in the Eastern Cape, saying that everything went well despite all those minor challenges. Had it not been for those service delivery protests, everything would have went smooth here in the Eastern Cape. What we can tell you is that only 2% of the votes now that have been counted in the province so far. With that, it is back to you in studio.
All right, that is SABC News reporter in East London, Lubabalo Dada. They're giving us a wrap of the developments in that particular area.